Hey everyone, welcome to Season 3 of the Parent Podcast. I hope you had an amazing time of worship and study this week with our church family here at ABC. I'm Josh, youth pastor here at Acton Baptist, and I want to thank you for joining me on your drive, your lunch break, the time you set aside for this each week. So, without further ado, let's get to it. It's officially the last week of our pumpkin patch, so I'll be back in our studio space next Monday. But until then, I've got some great students running things, so I actually get to record in my office today. In case the last few weeks of our podcast haven't given you any hints, I'm a big believer in the necessity of the church community. When I was working up in Arkansas, where the outdoors was a huge pull and people came from all over the U.S. to go hiking and fishing, I would hear something along the lines of, my church is out on the trail, or out on the river, or my personal favorite, away from everyone else. As a younger minister, the last thing I wanted to do was offend, but I was also a bit more brash than I am now. I remember one conversation where I looked at someone and made the statement, "You obviously have no idea what church means." Today, I'm not going to be so brash as to say that you can't hear from God outside of church, but that the church is what God intended to connect us together. The gathering of believers is so unbelievably important throughout not only Paul's writings, but throughout the New Testament. In the book of Hebrews, the writer commands us not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together. And the why is the most important part of that verse. It says in Hebrews 10:25 that we assemble together for encouragement. Personally, I like the King James Version saying exhorting. We push each other forward. We lovingly correct. We keep each other accountable to the course that God has put us on. So why am I talking about this in a podcast on parenting teenagers? If you've missed every episode this month, I want you to walk away with the crux of the whole thing. We gather together because sometimes life gets rough. Sometimes we need people to help us along the way, and we need people to pick up on our blind spots. The whole point of us coming together as believers is to be there for each other, doing what Paul says in Romans, that we rejoice with those who rejoice and we weep with those who weep. Parents, throughout the life of your teenagers, you're going to have some highs and lows. You're going to see pain that you've probably never witnessed before. You're going to have someone remind you that you can do this. Let me be the first to say that you are doing a great job with your teenager. All anyone can ask of you is to be faithful to the calling God has given you as a parent. But do yourself a favor and get plugged in with a group of faithful parents so you can laugh and cry with them and they can do the same for you. So we have two announcements before we finish up today. First of all, our pumpkin patch is almost over and we've already sold over $8,000 in pumpkins. I want to thank you to those who have served this past week. We are open until the 31st, so if you and your teenager can volunteer between now and then, make sure to contact me at jcomer@actonbaptist.org, or you can sign up to help at actonbaptist.com/events. And then finally, Acton Baptist's annual Trunk and Treat is happening this Thursday, the 31st, from 6 to 7:30. If you haven't signed up your trunk yet, or you'd just like to volunteer in any area, make sure to contact the church office and we will get you hooked up with Scott Udaly. Thank you so much for listening today. Know that I'm praying for you and your family. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow our social media accounts on Facebook and Instagram by searching for AB Youth Men. Also, go ahead and share our podcast so our reach can go out that much further. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you here at Acton Baptist and on the Parent Podcast next week.